For centuries, the scholars of the Galactic Union had gathered in front of the same cold gray stone, trying to unlock its secrets. The stone stood in the center of a quiet chamber on the planet Virith, glowing faintly under the blue light of the twin suns. It was covered in strange symbols, lines that twisted like vines, dots that formed perfect spirals, and words that no one could read. Every machine, every AI, every known translator had failed to decode it. The symbols didn't match any language in the known galaxy. Many believed it wasn't a language at all but the random marks of an extinct species. Yet every few years, new scholars came with new tools, hoping to succeed where others had failed. And every time, they left defeated. But something about the stone always drew people back. Some said it whispered at night when the lights dimmed. Others said it reacted to sound, faintly glowing whenever someone spoke near it. The truth was, no one really knew. Dr. Vereen stood in front of it now, eyes wide with both excitement and exhaustion. She had been leading the latest research team from the Galactic Academy. "We have run every pattern, every code," she said, rubbing her forehead. "It doesn't match anything." Her assistant, a young alien named Reth, looked up from his hollow tablet. "Maybe it's not meant to be read," he said. "Maybe it's decoration." Dr. Vereen frowned. "No. Look at the structure, repeated syntax, mathematical spacing. It's a language. A complex one." For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. The air felt heavy, charged with centuries of unanswered questions. Dr. Vereen finally sighed and turned to her team. "End today's session. We'll try again tomorrow." The scholars began packing up their scanners and data pads. None of them noticed that, as they left, the faint glow of the stone pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Later that evening, the doors of the Galactic Archives opened again. A new visitor stepped in, a human engineer named Jack Marlowe. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't a linguist, not a scholar, and certainly not a member of the decoding team. Jack had come to fix a malfunctioning scanner. He walked casually through the chamber, humming a song from Earth, not paying much attention to the stone that had frustrated the galaxy's best minds. He glanced at it once, then froze. His heart skipped a beat. The symbols on the stone looked oddly familiar. He moved closer, squinting. His eyes widened in disbelief. "Wait, no way," he muttered. The curved lines, the small dots. It looked like a language his grandmother used to write in her old journals back home in Northern Earth. A forgotten Earth dialect spoken by only a few tribes centuries ago. Jack slowly ran his fingers near the symbols but didn't touch them. "This can't be real," he whispered. The next morning, when the scholars returned, they found Jack sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at the stone. Dr. Vereen frowned. "Who authorized you to be here?" she demanded. Jack looked up, smiling nervously. "Sorry, I was just looking. I think I can read this." The whole room went silent. Then came the laughter. "You," Reth said. "A human mechanic? That stone has resisted the Union's best translators for 600 years. Jack shrugged. "Yeah, I know. But the symbols, they look like a mix of old Earth dialects. Something my grandmother used to speak." Dr. Vereen crossed her arms. "You expect us to believe this artifact, found on a planet billions of light years away, is written in a human language?" Jack smiled faintly. "I didn't say it was a human language. But it's close. Like someone copied it long ago." Curiosity overpowered doubt. Dr. Vereen stepped aside. "Fine. Read it, then." Jack hesitated, then leaned forward. His eyes moved over the top row of symbols. He took a deep breath and spoke softly. "We came from the ashes, and we shall return to the stars." The entire chamber shook. The stone began to glow brighter than it ever had before. Symbols rearranged themselves, and a low hum filled the air. The scholars stared in shock as the markings shifted into readable galactic script right before their eyes. The stone was responding to his voice. Dr. Vereen's mouth fell open. "It's activating." Jack stepped back, Heart pounding. I didn't mean to. The stone projected a holographic image into the air. It showed a group of tall beings, humanoid, ancient, wearing what looked like primitive armor. But their faces were unmistakably human. The projection spoke in a voice that echoed through the room, half robotic, half human. Our words were lost to the stars, until one of our children returned. Everyone froze. Dr. Varine's skin went pale. Children. What does it mean by that? Jack stared at the image, his voice trembling. It means, humans didn't come from Earth. We returned there. The hum of the stone grew louder, and the projection flickered again. Reth whispered, "Doctor, what do we do?" Dr. Varine didn't answer. She couldn't. For the first time in her career, she was speechless. The stone that no machine could translate had spoken to a human. Instantly. Outside the chamber, alarms began to sound. The Galactic Council had detected the energy surge from across the planet. Something ancient had awakened, and the one who triggered it was just an engineer from Earth. The alarms echoed through the entire research complex, red lights flashing across the metallic halls. Scholars, guards, and technicians rushed toward the decoding chamber, their footsteps clanging like a drumbeat of panic. Inside, the massive stone continued to glow, symbols rearranging themselves in a slow, mesmerizing dance. Jack stood frozen in the middle of the room, hands trembling, as if the weight of 1,000 years had suddenly landed on his shoulders. Dr. Varine was shouting into her communicator, calling for containment teams and data recorders. "No one touch the artifact," she yelled. "We don't know what triggered it." Reth stared at Jack with wide eyes. "You said a few words, and this happened?" Jack nodded weakly. "Yeah. I just read what I saw. I didn't think it would respond." The chamber doors slid open, and 3 armored guards from the Galactic Council entered, their rifles humming with blue energy. One of them, Commander Terran, stepped forward, glaring at Jack. "What did you do, human?" he demanded. Jack swallowed hard. I just read the writing." Terran's tone turned sharp. "You expect me to believe a mechanic read something that our best minds couldn't translate in 6 centuries? Dr. Varine stepped in quickly. "Commander, he's telling the truth." The artifact reacted to his voice. "We all saw it." Terran turned toward the stone, watching as the glowing script formed a circle of light on the floor. Suddenly, a low vibration filled the air, like a pulse from the planet's core. The projection above the stone reappeared, this time larger, clearer. The ancient humanoid figures were standing in what looked like a massive city of stone and metal. The tallest figure spoke again in that same haunting voice. "To those who seek the origin, remember, the fire that builds worlds once burned within your kind." The scholars gasped. "It's addressing us," Reth whispered. Dr. Varine's eyes narrowed. "No. It's addressing him." She pointed to Jack. The projection turned its head slowly toward him, and for a moment, Jack felt as if the figure was looking directly into his soul. "Child of Terra," it said, "why have you awakened the memory?" Jack took a step back. "I didn't mean to. I was just trying to read." The chamber lights flickered, and the holographic figures began to fade. Before disappearing completely, the voice added, "The key lies beneath the 3rd sun, where the sky remembers the flame." Then the glow faded, and the stone went silent once more. The room was filled with heavy breathing and stunned silence. Terran looked around, then barked, "Seal this chamber immediately. No one leaves until the council arrives." Dr. Varine protested, "Commander, you can't hide this discovery. This is the first contact with a pre-galactic species possibly linked to humans." Terran snapped, "Until we know what it means, it stays classified." Jack's mind raced. The words echoed in his head. Beneath the 3rd sun. What did it mean? He knew he shouldn't get involved, but curiosity burned inside him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had just opened a door no one was meant to find. Hours later, the chamber was sealed, and the scientists were questioned one by one. When it was Jack's turn, He sat under a blinding white light while council officers bombarded him with questions. How did you know what to say? Did someone teach you the language? Are there others on Earth who can read it? Jack could only repeat the same answer. I don't know. It just felt familiar. When they finally released him, the sun of Virith was setting, casting long shadows over the desert. Jack walked alone outside the complex, looking up at the triple suns that hung over the horizon. The third sun, the smallest one, was beginning to fade behind the rocky cliffs. Beneath the third sun, he muttered. Could it be a clue to another site? A hidden chamber? The thought sent chills down his spine. He knew that if he told anyone, the council would lock him away for good. But deep inside, he also knew this was just the beginning. Back inside, Dr. Vereen was arguing with Commander Terran in the council chamber. We can't just silence this, she said sharply. If what the projection said is true, it changes everything we know about human history. Terran leaned closer, his metallic armor reflecting the dim lights. And that's exactly why it must remain hidden. Do you understand what would happen if the galaxy learns humans are not native to Earth? Entire alliances would fall apart. Vereen clenched her fists. Truth doesn't stay buried forever. Meanwhile, Jack returned to his quarters, but sleep wouldn't come. The image of the ancient beings haunted his mind. He remembered his grandmother's voice telling him stories about the first fire people who came from the stars. At the time, he thought they were just myths. Now, he wasn't so sure. The room suddenly flickered with a soft blue glow. Jack turned toward his holo device. It had turned on by itself, showing the same spiral pattern that appeared on the stone. A line of glowing text appeared on the screen. The memory is awake. Follow the light of the third sun. Jack's heart raced. He grabbed his jacket and slipped out of the quarters, avoiding the guards. He moved through dark corridors until he reached the outer gate. The guards were distracted by the energy readings coming from the artifact chamber, so he slipped past unnoticed. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, bathed in blue and orange light from the setting suns. Jack followed the smallest sun's fading glow, climbing over jagged rocks and sand dunes. As night fell, he saw something strange, a faint blue shimmer on the horizon, pulsing like a heartbeat. He approached carefully. The sand beneath his feet turned warm, almost alive. Then he saw it. Half buried under the dunes was another stone, smaller, but carved with the same twisting symbols. He brushed off the sand, and the stone lit up instantly at his touch. The symbols shifted again, forming new words that made his blood run cold. The second key awaits. Do not let them silence the fire. Jack stumbled back, staring in shock. The ground trembled slightly beneath him, as if something massive was stirring deep below. For a brief moment, he thought he heard whispers, soft, ancient, calling his name. He looked back toward the research base, its lights glowing faintly in the distance. He knew that by finding this second stone, he had crossed a line he could never return from. Somewhere in the galaxy's silent darkness, something had noticed him. And it was waking up. The night wind howled across the Virith desert, carrying grains of silver dust that shimmered under the moonlight. Jack stood before the half-buried stone, heart pounding, his breath forming clouds in the cool air. The glowing words on the surface were fading, but their meaning was burned into his mind. The second key awaits. Do not let them silence the fire. He didn't fully understand what it meant, but deep inside, he felt something pulling him forward, an invisible thread tying him to this ancient mystery. He crouched down, brushing his fingers along the stone's edge. The glow responded faintly to his touch, pulsing like a heartbeat. For a moment, he thought he saw shapes moving beneath the sand, dark outlines, like long-buried structures. Then the light faded completely, leaving him in silence. He knew he couldn't stay. The council would soon realize he was missing, and if they found him here, they'd take everything. He covered the smaller stone again with sand and marked the area with a broken metal shard. As he turned back toward the base, a strange unease grew inside him, as if the desert itself was watching. By dawn, the entire research complex was in chaos. Alarms blared again, this time not from the chamber but from the command center. Dr. Vereen stood among a crowd of anxious scholars, watching as the monitors filled with streams of unreadable data. "Energy readings from the desert," one technician shouted. "Same frequency as the artifact." Commander Terran stormed into the room, his armor glinting under the red emergency lights. "Lock down the perimeter," he ordered. "No one leaves this facility." Dr. Vereen frowned. "You think it's connected to the stone?" "Everything is connected to that human," Terran growled. "Find him." Jack reached the edge of the outer fences just as two patrol drones flew overhead, their searchlights sweeping across the sands. He hid behind a cluster of rocks, holding his breath. His mind raced. He needed proof, something to show Dr. Vereen before the council silenced everything. He remembered the phrase from the hologram, "Beneath the third sun, where the sky remembers the flame." Maybe it wasn't just a riddle. Maybe it was a location. The third sun of Virith was smaller and dimmer, its orbit farthest from the planet's center. When it rose again, its light would fall on a different part of the desert, a place beneath it. That's where he needed to go. Hours passed before the pale light of the third sun appeared on the horizon. Jack followed its path, walking across endless dunes. His water was nearly gone, and every step felt heavier than the last. Then, as the sun reached its peak, the ground ahead shimmered. The sand sank slightly, revealing a circular outline of black stone. Jack approached carefully. The circle was massive, at least 20 meters across, covered with the same symbols as the first stone, but older, worn down by time. As he stepped closer, the ground beneath him vibrated. Dust lifted into the air. The symbols began to glow. Jack stumbled back as the circle split open silently, revealing a staircase leading deep underground. Cool air rushed out, carrying the faint scent of metal and something ancient, something alive. He hesitated for only a moment before descending. The stairs spiraled downward into darkness, each step illuminated by soft blue lights embedded in the walls. At the bottom, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with strange machines and towering pillars of crystal. In the center stood another stone tablet, larger than the first two, with symbols glowing faintly in rhythmic pulses. Jack walked closer, mesmerized. When he touched it, the air crackled, and a voice filled the chamber, not mechanical this time, but calm and human. "Welcome, descendant," it said. "You have found the second memory." Jack's knees nearly buckled. "Who are you?" he whispered. The voice responded, "We were the builders, the first humans who crossed the stars before your world remembered light." Jack froze. "You mean, humans were space travelers before Earth?" The voice pulsed softly. "Before your planet had names, we walked the void. But the stars burned us, and we fell. The ones who survived fled to a young world, your Earth." Jack's heart pounded. "Why does the stone exist? Why me?" The voice replied, "Because the fire that once made us strong now sleeps in your kind. Only one who remembers the old words can awaken it again." The symbols shifted, forming a new phrase, "The third memory waits beneath the sea of glass." Then the voice faded, leaving the chamber silent except for the echo of Jack's breathing. He took a step back, overwhelmed. His hands shook as he pulled out his holodevice, recording everything. "Sea of glass," he repeated. "That must mean another planet." Above ground, Dr. Vereen was growing desperate. She had convinced Terran to delay sending troops after Jack, but the Council was already demanding answers. "If the artifact connects to something bigger, we need to know," she argued. "He might be uncovering something the Union has buried for centuries." Terran's eyes narrowed. "Or he's leading us into a trap." By the time Jack climbed out of the underground chamber, night had fallen again. The stars stretched endlessly above him, and the three suns shimmered faintly beyond the horizon. He was exhausted, but his mind burned with questions. Were humans truly from another world? Why had history forgotten them? And why now, after thousands of years, was the language waking up again? He looked back toward the glowing fissure where the stone chamber hid, then toward the faint lights of the research base in the distance. He had to tell Dr. Vereen before the council found out. As he began walking back, his communicator crackled to life. A weak voice came through. Dr. Vereen. Jack, if you can hear me, don't return to the base. The council knows you're gone. They're planning to erase the records. Whatever you found, keep it safe. Static filled the rest. Jack stopped in his tracks. Erase the records, he muttered. He glanced toward the desert horizon. The thought of losing the truth filled him with anger and fear. He turned away from the base and began heading toward the distant mountain ridge instead. Suddenly, a bright blue beam shot across the sky and struck the ground near him, sending up a cloud of sand. Jack dove to the ground as 2 patrol drones appeared overhead. Unauthorized human detected, one of them said in a metallic voice. Jack ran, his boots kicking up sand, heart racing. He darted between rocky outcrops, narrowly avoiding another blast. The drones followed relentlessly. Then, from nowhere, a burst of white light exploded above them, frying their circuits. The drones crashed into the sand. Jack looked up in shock. A small hovercraft descended silently from the clouds. The hatch opened, and Dr. Vereen stepped out, her face tense. I told you not to come back, she said. Jack gasped. I found it, the second memory, it's real. Vereen's eyes widened. Then we don't have much time. She looked toward the glowing desert horizon. Because if you found the second one, the council will do anything to find the third. And this time, they won't just come for you, they'll come for all of Earth. The hovercraft cut through the night sky like a shadow, leaving no trail behind. Inside, Jack sat beside Dr. Vereen, still covered in desert dust, his mind racing with questions. The hum of the engines filled the silence between them. Finally, he broke it. They'll follow us, won't they? Dr. Vereen didn't look at him. They already are, she said quietly. The council doesn't like mysteries, Jack. Especially ones that threaten their version of history. Jack frowned. You mean they already knew about these stones? Vereen nodded. They've known for centuries. The first fragment of the ancient language was found 50 years ago on a mining moon. They kept it secret, believing it was the key to something dangerous. You just woke it up. Jack leaned back, stunned. So, they've been hiding humanity's past all this time? Not just hiding it, Vereen said. They've been rewriting it. The hovercraft descended into a narrow canyon, hidden beneath layers of thick mist. There, in the middle of nowhere, stood a small outpost carved into the rock, one of Vereen's private research shelters. As they landed, a group of scientists rushed out to meet her. Doctor, we detected a massive energy spike in the desert, one of them said. Council ships are scanning the area. Vereen nodded. They're too late. We have what we need. She motioned for Jack to follow her inside. The base was small but filled with advanced equipment, holomaps, old relics, and fragments of ancient metal etched with strange writing. Vereen guided him to a large circular table in the center of the room. Show me what you found, she said. Jack pulled out his holodevice and projected the recordings from the underground chamber. The image of the glowing symbols and the voice of the ancient builders filled the room. Everyone watched in silence. When the voice said, "We walked the void before your world remembered light," a chill spread among them. One of the scientists whispered, "This means humans were not born on Earth." Vereen's eyes glimmered with a strange mix of fear and excitement. "It means Earth was a colony," she said softly. "A refuge for survivors of an older civilization." Jack stared at her. But why hide it? Why would the council bury the truth? Vereen turned to him, her face serious. Because power depends on history. The Galactic Union was built on the idea that humans were latecomers, primitive beings uplifted by alien knowledge. If the truth comes out that humans were once the masters of the stars, the balance of power collapses. Jack felt anger rise inside him. So they kept humanity small, weak, just to protect their rule. Exactly, Vereen said. But now, because of you, The truth is waking up. Suddenly, an alarm blared across the base. "Incoming ships!" someone shouted. The monitors showed several council cruisers descending toward the canyon. "They found us," Vereen snapped. "Everyone, grab the data cores. We can't let them take it." Jack turned toward the window and saw the sky glowing red with descending engines. "How did they find us so fast?" Vereen replied grimly, "They've been tracking my ship for months. I thought I erased their trace codes. I was wrong." Explosions shook the canyon walls as the first wave of drones descended. Vereen tossed Jack a small device. "Take this." He looked at it. It was a memory crystal. "It contains everything about the artifacts and your recordings. If they capture me, keep it safe." Jack's throat tightened. "I'm not leaving you here." She gave him a sharp look. "You don't have a choice." The base trembled again as energy blasts struck the outer walls. The lights flickered. "Go through the back tunnel," Vereen said. "It leads to the old transport caves. I'll cover you." Reluctantly, Jack ran toward the rear corridor, clutching the crystal. Behind him, he heard the heavy thud of doors sealing and the echo of laser fire. The tunnel was dark and narrow, filled with the sound of collapsing rock. He pushed forward, coughing from the dust. When he finally emerged, he was outside again, on a high ridge overlooking the canyon. Below, council ships hovered like dark birds, their spotlights cutting through the smoke. He saw Vereen standing near the entrance, surrounded by armed soldiers. She raised her hands as they shouted orders. Then, in a burst of light, she activated a small detonator on her wrist. The entire entrance exploded, burying the front of the base in a wave of stone. Jack gasped. "No!" He stumbled backward, eyes wide. The blast faded, leaving only smoke and fire. He wanted to run down there, to help her, but he knew she had done it to buy him time. He looked at the glowing crystal in his hand, the last piece of their research. "I won't let it die with you," he whispered. Then he turned and ran toward the distant mountains. Hours passed as he trekked through the rough terrain, guided only by the faint light of the third sun. The memory crystal pulsed faintly in his hand, projecting fragments of data in the air. Maps, coordinates, and strange star patterns. One coordinate blinked repeatedly, marked with the name, Sea of Glass. It wasn't on Virith. It was another planet, one deep in restricted space. Jack sighed. "Great. Exactly where I'm not supposed to go." As he rested near a cliff, his communicator buzzed faintly. A distorted voice came through. It was Reth, Dr. Vereen's assistant. "Jack, are you there?" Jack blinked in surprise. "Reth? You're alive." "Barely," Reth said, coughing. "The council took Vereen. She's still alive, but they're moving her to their capital ship. They're calling it a containment for security reasons." Jack clenched his fists. "They're trying to erase everything." "Not if you reach the third site," Reth said. Vereen left instructions in the lab. The Sea of Glass isn't just another ruin, it's where the builders left their final message. She believed it could prove everything. Jack stared out at the stars. "Then that's where I'll go." Reth hesitated. "It's guarded by the council fleet. You'll never make it alone." Jack smiled faintly. "Who said I'd go alone?" He looked at the crystal again. Inside its glow, faint outlines of ancient starships appeared, massive vessels shaped like wings of fire. The builders' ships. "If these people once walked the stars," he whispered, "maybe they left behind more than just stones." The next morning, Jack reached the edge of an old abandoned launch platform hidden deep in the canyon. Rusted human technology lay scattered, remnants of a forgotten expedition. He brushed off the sand from an old insignia carved on a metal plate. It read, "Terran Stellar Command." His heart skipped a beat. "We really were here before," he murmured. Then, as the sun rose, casting gold light across the canyon, he felt a strange calm. The past wasn't lost, it was waiting to be found again. Far above, the council's flagship hovered, tracking his last known position. Inside, Commander Terran watched the screens, eyes narrowed. "The human has the crystal," he said coldly. "Then we'll find him. Before he learns what the Sea of Glass really is." He turned toward the stars, unaware that somewhere, buried deep under alien sands, ancient machines had already begun to wake. And their sensors had detected a familiar signature: human DNA. The stars stretched endlessly across the black void as Jack's stolen transport ship glided through hyperspace. The hum of the engines filled the small cabin, and blue light flickered over his face. He hadn't slept in 2 days, not since escaping Virith. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Dr. Vereen standing in front of the exploding base, her determined gaze burned into his memory. The memory crystal pulsed faintly beside him, projecting fragments of old coordinates across the dashboard. Each point led to one place: the Sea of Glass, a forbidden planet on the edge of the Orion expanse. According to the records, it was uninhabitable, covered entirely in frozen crystal plains. But the builders had left something there. Something the Council wanted buried forever. Jack gripped the controls tighter. "If that's where the truth is," he muttered, "then that's where I'm going." Behind him, the stars twisted as a ripple of light appeared. Council ships dropping out of hyperspace. The scanners beeped rapidly. Of course they'd follow, Jack groaned. He slammed a switch, diverting all power to the engines. The small ship shuddered, pushing its limits. "Come on, old girl, don't give up on me now." Laser fire streaked past the hull, lighting up the cockpit. One blast grazed the wing, throwing sparks across the cabin. Jack gritted his teeth and dove into a nearby asteroid belt, weaving between jagged rocks and chunks of ice. The Council ships hesitated, their massive cruisers couldn't maneuver so easily. Jack smiled grimly. "Try and keep up." After several tense minutes, the scanners went quiet. He had lost them. For now. He slumped back in the pilot's chair, heart still pounding. The Sea of Glass shimmered in the distance, a pale blue sphere surrounded by a halo of frozen rings. As his ship entered orbit, the icy world filled the view. From space, it looked peaceful, almost beautiful, but the instruments showed massive energy readings beneath the surface. "So this is it," he whispered. "The final key." He landed near the edge of a vast crystalline plain. The ground was smooth and mirror-like, reflecting the faint light of distant suns. The silence was absolute, broken only by the faint hum of his ship cooling down. Jack stepped out, his boots crunching softly against the glassy surface. Every reflection seemed to shimmer with strange colors, and for a moment, he saw faces, human faces, flickering faintly beneath the ice. He shivered. "Okay, that's not creepy at all." He activated the memory crystal, and a beam of light projected symbols across the frozen ground. The symbols rearranged themselves, forming a glowing circle just like the one on Virith. "Here we go again," Jack muttered, stepping inside. As soon as he did, the ground beneath him vibrated. The glass cracked and then split apart, revealing a spiral staircase descending into blue light. He took a deep breath and began to climb down. The deeper he went, the warmer the air became. By the time he reached the bottom, he was standing in a massive underground hall made entirely of translucent crystal. At the center stood a single pedestal, and on it rested a floating sphere of light. When he approached, the sphere spoke, not in the ancient tongue this time, but in clear, perfect English. "Welcome, descendant of Terra," it said. "You have reached the third memory." Jack swallowed hard. "Who are you?" The sphere glowed brighter. "We are the echoes of the builders. Our time ended long ago, but we left behind our words, our machines, and our truth. You are the first to find them all." Jack stared at it. "Why me? I'm no scholar. I'm just an engineer." The sphere's voice softened. "Because the builders were engineers too. We built worlds. We made life possible. You share the same spark." Images filled the air around him, ancient starships soaring through galaxies, humans walking on alien worlds, vast cities built from light and metal. "We came from the stars," the voice continued. But pride destroyed us. We waged wars that shattered suns. In our final days, we sent a few of our kind to a distant, safe world. That world became your Earth. You forgot who you were. Until now. Jack's throat tightened. So the stories are true. We didn't start on Earth. No, the sphere said. Earth was your refuge. But your return to the stars was always meant to happen. The builders left one last gift, knowledge that can unite the galaxy or destroy it again. The sphere pulsed, projecting a map of the galaxy filled with glowing points of light. These are the seeds, it said. Machines buried in different worlds, holding the power to awaken the builder network. Together, they can rebuild what was lost. But the Council seeks to claim them for control. Jack's mind raced. If they find this place, then the cycle of destruction begins again, the sphere finished. A sudden rumble shook the chamber. Jack turned toward the stairway. Blue light was flashing from above. He grabbed the crystal and pocketed it just as the ceiling cracked open. Council troops descended in hover armor, their rifles aimed at him. Commander Terran stepped forward. "I told you, human," he said coldly. "You should have stayed in your place." Jack raised his hands slowly. "You don't understand, Terran. This isn't a weapon. It's our history." Terran sneered. "History doesn't matter. Control does." He gestured to his soldiers. "Take the sphere." Before Jack could react, energy bolts shot across the hall. The crystal walls absorbed some, but the sphere dimmed as if in pain. Jack dove behind a pillar, pulling out the small tool from his belt. "You want control," he muttered. "Let's see if you can handle this." He connected the memory crystal to his device and pressed a button. The ground shook violently. The sphere suddenly glowed brighter than ever, sending a shockwave across the room. The soldiers were thrown off their feet. Terran shouted in panic, "Shut it down!" But it was too late. The entire chamber lit up with blinding white light. When the light faded, the soldiers were gone. Only Jack and the sphere remained. The voice spoke again, quieter now. "You have chosen to awaken the network. The truth will spread." Jack looked around in confusion. "What did I do?" The sphere's glow flickered. "You restored our memory to the stars. Every database, every channel across the galaxy will now remember who humans were." Jack's eyes widened. "You mean, everyone will know?" "Yes," said the sphere. "And the Builder's legacy will live again. Guard it well, child of Terra." The sphere began to dissolve into light, scattering into the air like glowing dust. Jack stood there, stunned. Outside, the frozen surface of the planet started to crack and shift. Streams of light erupted from the ice, shooting into the sky. From orbit, the sea of glass shone like a beacon across the galaxy. On distant worlds, ancient machines stirred to life, transmitting one message in every language: "We are the children of the Builders. Humanity has returned." Jack watched the light rise toward the stars, feeling both awe and fear. "Vereen," he whispered. "You were right." His communicator buzzed suddenly. It was Reth again, his voice trembling. "Jack, every system is lighting up with the same signal. You did it. You actually did it." Jack smiled faintly. "Yeah. But now they all know." He looked toward the stars. Somewhere up there, the Council was watching, terrified. Because the truth they tried to bury had just been unleashed across the galaxy. As the winds began to rise over the shattered plains, Jack climbed back toward his ship. Jack's ship hovered above the shining plains of the Sea of Glass, its engines humming softly as beams of light continued to burst through the planet's frozen surface. The signal had already spread. He could feel it in the static of the air, in the way his ship's sensors kept flickering with strange readings. All across the galaxy, something ancient had awakened. "So this is it," Jack muttered, watching as the crystal cracks beneath him glowed brighter with every second. "No going back now." The ship's console beeped with incoming transmissions, hundreds of them, from every corner of known space. Some were confused scientists, others panicked military leaders, and a few were desperate pleas for answers. But one message repeated everywhere in the background: "We are the children of the builders." Jack leaned back, shaking his head. "You really did it this time, Jack," he whispered to himself. As he tried to steady his thoughts, Reth's voice crackled through the calm. "Jack, it's spreading faster than anything I've ever seen. It's rewriting databases, opening archives, even activating old satellites. The entire galactic net is lighting up." Jack frowned. "And the Council?" Reth hesitated. "They've gone dark. No transmissions for hours." Jack cursed under his breath. "That means they're planning something big." The stars outside shifted slightly as the sea of glass began to tremble beneath his ship. The lights that had erupted earlier now formed a massive spiral, stretching for miles across the planet's surface. It looked like a signal beacon, but aimed outward, toward deep space. "Reth," Jack said slowly. "Something's answering the call." A faint vibration filled the air, like the hum of an enormous engine waking up after 1,000 years. The spiral of light twisted, then shot a column of energy into the sky. Jack's scanners screamed in alarm. "That's not natural," he shouted. "It's opening something." A blinding flash erupted above the planet, a hole in space itself, shimmering with blue and silver energy. Jack shielded his eyes, but even through the glare, he could see massive shapes emerging from the rift. Ships. Not council ships. These were older, smoother, their hulls engraved with glowing symbols. They looked like nothing built in the last 10,000 years. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," Jack whispered. "The builders." The first of the colossal ships glided silently toward orbit, its design both alien and familiar. Reth's voice trembled over the calm. "Jack, are you seeing this? That ship's signature, it matches the relic blueprints we found last month. They're not just stories." Jack stared at the growing fleet. "Looks like the past just arrived in person." As the builder ships positioned themselves above the sea of glass, one of them sent out a signal. His ship systems translated it automatically. "Child of Terra, we have heard your call." Jack froze. "They're talking to me?" The voice repeated, louder now. "Your kind has reawakened the chain. We come not as conquerors, but as witnesses." A sudden flash of light filled the cockpit, and before Jack could react, he found himself standing on a vast platform made of pure light. The world around him had vanished, the ship, the stars, everything. Before him stood three towering figures made of shimmering energy. They looked vaguely human, but their faces were smooth and glowing, their eyes like stars. One stepped forward and spoke. "You are the first to unlock the memory," it said in a calm, deep voice. "You carry the seed of our legacy." Jack swallowed hard. "You're the builders." The figure nodded. "The last echoes of them, yes. We were once flesh and blood, but time turned us to light. We watched as your kind grew in the dark, rebuilding what was lost." Jack's heart pounded. "The Council will come after you. They'll try to control this." The figures exchanged glances. "We know," the leader said. "And that is why we came, to finish what we began." The platform around them shifted, revealing a holographic image of the galaxy. Millions of glowing points connected by thin lines. "These are the nodes of the network," the builder explained. "You have awakened the core. Now the network must choose who will guide it. The Council seeks control, but control leads to ruin. Only those who understand creation can restore balance." Jack frowned. "And you think I'm one of them?" The builder's eyes flared softly. "You are human. The first of the forgotten to remember. That is enough." Suddenly, the platform shook violently. A loud explosion echoed in the distance, and the light around Jack flickered. The builders turned toward the disturbance. "They found us," the leader said grimly. In an instant, the vision faded, and Jack was back in his cockpit. His sensors blared warnings. Council warships had arrived, surrounding the planet. Massive cruisers blocked every escape route. "Attention, human vessel, came a familiar voice. It was Commander Terran. You've done enough damage. Surrender the artifact, and perhaps we'll spare your planet. Jack scowled. You don't get it, Terran. It's too late. The builders are awake. Terran's voice turned cold. Then we'll put them back to sleep. His ships opened fire, launching beams of energy toward the sea of glass. The impact caused a shockwave that made Jack's ship spin wildly. He struggled to regain control. Reth, they're attacking the surface. They're trying to destroy the core. Reth's reply came through static. Jack, if the core collapses, it could trigger a chain reaction through the network. Half the galaxy could burn. Jack clenched his fists. Then we stop them. He locked onto the nearest council cruiser and dove straight at it. Alarms blared, and plasma fire streaked past his ship, but he kept pushing forward. As he flew closer, the builder ships suddenly moved. They didn't fire weapons. Instead, they emitted waves of light that rippled through space. Every council system, engines, shields, weapons, shut down instantly. The warships floated helplessly in orbit, powerless. Terran shouted over the open channel, "What have you done, human?" Jack smirked. "Not me. Them." From the largest builder ship, a final signal pulsed outward. It wasn't a weapon, it was a message, broadcast across the stars. "To all who hear us," the ancient voice said, "the children of Terra have remembered. The age of division is over. The awakening begins." The light spread faster than any transmission Jack had ever seen, passing through ships, planets, and entire star systems. Everywhere it touched, dormant machines powered up, and long-dead cities lit with life again. The Council fleet began to retreat in fear, their leaders realizing they no longer controlled the truth. Jack watched the builder ships rise higher into the sky, forming a massive ring of light above the sea of glass. The voice echoed one last time, "We leave the galaxy to its children. Guard it well." Then, in a flash, the ships vanished, leaving only silence. Jack sat back in his chair, breathing heavily. "They're gone," Reth whispered. "They actually left." Jack looked out at the stars, the faint glow of the network still visible across the void. "No," he said quietly. "They didn't leave. They just handed us the keys." The ship's engines hummed as he prepared to leave orbit. Below him, the sea of glass shimmered like a mirror, reflecting the light of 1,000 suns. Humanity had awakened something far greater than anyone could imagine. And now, as the first child of Terra to speak the Builder's words in 10,000 years, Jack knew his journey was far from over. The sea of glass had turned silent once again, but the galaxy above it was anything but calm. News of the awakening spread like wildfire. From the industrial moons of Archon to the floating cities of Lysara, the same message echoed through every network, every broadcast. "We are the children of the Builders." Governments panicked, old alliances trembled, and the Galactic Council tried desperately to contain the truth. But it was too late. Once the signal had reached the outer colonies, millions of humans across the stars began to feel something they hadn't in generations: pride. The ancient words of their ancestors had returned, and with them, a spark of identity no empire could control. Jack watched all of it unfold from the cockpit of his ship, his eyes fixed on the endless void. "They can't unhear it now," he murmured. Reth's voice came over the comm, full of awe. "Jack, entire worlds are rising in support. The miners on Koros, 7 just declared independence. Even the Council's own scientists are leaking builder archives." Jack leaned back, a faint smile on his face. "Good. Let them remember where they came from." But the smile didn't last long. His sensors were flashing red again. "Oh," he muttered. "We've got company." 3 Council interceptors dropped out of hyperspace ahead of him, blocking his path. Their hulls gleamed with the Council's golden insignia, and their weapons were already hot. "Human vessel," a cold voice boomed, "you are under arrest for technological corruption and dissemination of forbidden data. Power down immediately." Jack sighed. They never learn. He flipped a switch, diverting energy to his thrusters. "Reth, I hope you've got a plan. Working on it. Reth shouted. I'm patching you into a builder relay. If you can hold them off for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Jack barked, diving to avoid plasma fire. Blue streaks of energy sliced past his ship, lighting up the cockpit. He spun sharply, firing back with his small cannons, but they barely scratched the Council armor. I don't have 30 seconds, Reth, he yelled. Make it 10. Just then, one of the interceptors exploded in a burst of light. Jack blinked in shock. Wait, that wasn't me. Out of the void, a sleek black ship appeared, its engines leaving a trail of silver light. The voice that came through his comm was calm, confident, and human. Looks like you could use a hand, Jack. Jack's jaw dropped. Vareen. The ship swung in beside him, its cannons firing with precise bursts that crippled the remaining interceptors. You're supposed to be dead, Jack shouted. Dr. Vareen laughed softly. I was. Until the builders brought me back. For a moment, Jack couldn't speak. They revived you. She nodded. More like reconstructed me. They saved what they could of my mind after Virith exploded. Guess they needed someone to keep you out of trouble. Jack grinned despite himself. You always were bad at staying dead. Together, they turned their ships toward deep space, leaving the burning wrecks behind. Once clear of the combat zone, they rejoined Reth at a hidden outpost orbiting a gas giant. The station was small but packed with human refugees, scientists and soldiers, all united by one thing, the truth of the builders. As Jack's ship docked, the crew greeted him like a hero. That's him, someone whispered. The one who spoke the ancient words. But Jack waved them off. I'm just a mechanic who got lucky, he said. The real heroes are the ones keeping this alive. Vareen smiled faintly. Still humble, I see. Good. You'll need that. Inside the main control room, holographic displays showed dozens of human colonies lighting up with builder signals. Every time someone says the phrase Children of Terra, another relay activates, Reth explained. It's like the network is feeding on belief. Jack frowned. Belief. Reth nodded. The builders tied their systems to consciousness. Thought, energy, basically. The more people who believe in the message, the stronger it becomes. Jack rubbed his chin. So the galaxy itself is waking up because people believe in it again? Vareen crossed her arms. Exactly. That's why the Council is terrified. They can't suppress an idea this big. Just then, an alarm blared. Incoming transmission, a technician shouted. The holographic screen flickered, showing the grim face of Commander Terran. You think you've won, he sneered. You've only doomed yourselves. The builders weren't gods, they were tyrants who destroyed themselves, and now you're bringing their ruin back. Jack stepped forward. You're wrong. They created life. They gave us knowledge. Terran's voice rose in anger. They created weapons that burned half the stars in this galaxy. You're too blind to see it. The screen crackled with static as Terran's ship appeared outside the outpost, a massive dreadnought with hundreds of guns aimed directly at them. I'll end this heresy myself, he hissed. Before Jack could respond, Vareen's eyes widened. He's charging a superweapon. The dreadnought's core began to glow red. Jack slammed his fist on the console. If he fires, the entire station's gone. Reth looked panicked. We can't outrun it. Jack took a deep breath. Then we don't run. He turned toward Vareen. Can the builder network amplify a signal through us? She frowned. Maybe, but you'd have to connect directly to the core. That's suicide. Jack's gaze hardened. Then I'll take the risk. Without waiting for an answer, he ran toward the lower deck where the relay chamber hummed with energy. Standing before the glowing builder crystal, Jack placed his hand on it. A surge of power shot through him, filling his mind with light. Voices whispered in his head, the builders, the echoes of their civilization. Child of Terra, they said. Will you bear our memory once more? Jack gritted his teeth. I already have. He focused on the image of Terran's dreadnought, on the threat it posed, and on every human who believed in the truth. You want power, he shouted. Then take ours. The outpost erupted in a pillar of blue light that shot through space and struck Terran's ship head-on. The dreadnought's shields disintegrated instantly. Its weapon core overloaded, glowing brighter and brighter until it imploded, vanishing in a burst of pure energy. When the light faded, only silence remained. Jack collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. The builders' voices faded softly. The chain is complete. Humanity remembers. Reth's voice came over the speakers, full of disbelief. Jack, the whole council fleet just vanished. They're gone. Vereen rushed in, kneeling beside him. Jack, can you hear me? He opened his eyes weakly and smiled. Yeah, still here. She helped him to his feet. Outside the viewport, the stars shimmered strangely, as if something vast and ancient was stirring in the darkness. The builder network had come fully alive. Across the galaxy, worlds glowed with faint blue light, united by one message: humanity is awake. Vereen looked at him, eyes wide. Do you realize what you just did? Jack nodded slowly. I didn't destroy them, Vereen. I set us free. He turned to the stars, his expression calm but resolute. They tried to bury our past, but now the whole galaxy knows. We're not the forgotten children anymore. The hum of the builder core grew louder, echoing through the station like a heartbeat. And far above, somewhere beyond known space, something answered that call, a deeper, older voice awakening in the dark, whispering, the builder's return has begun. The galaxy had changed. From one end of the stars to the other, humans and aliens alike stared at the glowing patterns that now filled their skies. The builder network pulsed like veins of light, connecting planets, moons, and distant outposts into one vast, living web. Every hour, new signals appeared, ancient messages, strange blueprints, and fragments of lost knowledge long buried in time. The Galactic Council's power had crumbled overnight. Their fleets had vanished, their leaders fled, and their propaganda had been silenced by the truth itself. But even amid the spreading peace, Jack knew something deeper was stirring. The builders had not simply awakened the past, they were calling something forward. This isn't over, he whispered, standing at the viewport of the outpost as blue light rippled through the void. Dr. Vereen entered quietly, her expression unreadable. You feel it too, she said softly. Jack nodded. The signal keeps getting stronger. It's not random, it's guiding us somewhere. She handed him a tablet showing a pulsating map of the galaxy. Every relay point we've activated forms part of a larger pattern, she explained. When you overlay it, it's not just a network, it's a message. Jack studied the holographic lines. The pattern curved and spiraled into something familiar. It's a face, he said quietly. Human. Vereen nodded. The builders left a reflection of themselves in the stars. And the signal's final pulse, it's leading to the galactic core. Jack's stomach tightened. No one's ever made it that far. The core's a death zone. Radiation, gravity storms, and maybe answers, Vereen finished. Hours later, Jack, Vereen, and Reth boarded their ship, now upgraded with fragments of builder tech. The vessel hummed with strange energy, almost alive. As they left orbit, the crew of the outpost watched in silence, aware that this mission could change everything. You sure about this, Jack? Reth asked from the co-pilot seat. Not even close, Jack replied with a smirk. But if the builders left us something in the heart of the galaxy, I want to see it. The stars stretched into streaks as the ship entered hyperspace. 4 hours, they drifted through corridors of blue light, following the pulsing signal that seemed to beat in rhythm with Jack's own heartbeat. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace, the view before them was breathtaking. The galactic core burned like a storm of suns, with rivers of plasma twisting around a black hole the size of a planet. And in the middle of it all, suspended above the chaos, was something no one had ever imagined, a colossal ring structure, thousands of kilometers wide, glowing with ancient symbols. "Is that a station?" Reth whispered. "No," Vereen breathed. "That's a city." The ship's scanners struggled to process it. The structure emitted power beyond comprehension, its energy signature older than any known civilization. Jack's pulse quickened. That's where the builders went. Not vanished, waiting. They flew closer, guided by invisible forces that seemed to pull them toward a glowing entrance. Inside, the ship drifted through enormous corridors lined with crystal pillars and golden machinery that still thrummed with life. "It's still functioning," Vereen said in awe. "After all this time." Jack reached out and brushed his fingers along a nearby wall. The surface shimmered, then responded with a soft hum. Symbols appeared, rearranging themselves into words he could read. "Welcome, children of Terra." His heart pounded. They knew we'd come back. The deeper they went, the more surreal it became. Holograms flickered to life around them, scenes of the builders' past, their wars, their achievements, their final exodus. One image showed great fleets leaving shattered worlds, carrying millions of refugees. Another showed them building the network, the same one now spread across the stars. And finally, a single ship landing on a blue planet. Earth. "So it's true," Reth whispered. "We're their descendants." Vereen smiled sadly. "They didn't abandon us, they gave us a second chance." At the center of the vast chamber, a platform rose from the floor, holding a single floating sphere of light. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. As they approached, the sphere spoke in a calm, resonant voice. "You have come far, children of our memory. You carry the spark we left behind." Jack stepped forward. "Are you the last of them?" The sphere shimmered. "We are what remains of their consciousness." The builders transcended flesh, but before they departed this realm, they left us to guide those who would remember. Jack frowned. "You said transcended. What does that mean?" "They moved beyond the material," the sphere explained, "into the fabric of space itself. They became part of the stars." Vereen's eyes widened. "You mean, they're still here, watching us?" The sphere glowed brighter. "Always. The network you awakened is not a weapon or a machine, it is a bridge. A bridge between what was and what can be." Jack's voice trembled. "Then why now? Why bring it back after all this time?" The sphere pulsed gently. "Because humanity forgot who it was." The galaxy fell to silence. But when one of you spoke the old words again, laughter in the face of impossibility, the bridge heard. The signal of life, of defiance, of humanity. Jack blinked, realizing. "You mean me?" "Yes," the sphere said simply. "The builders heard your laughter. That was the sound of creation." Before Jack could respond, the chamber began to shake. The ship's alarms blared. "Something's entering the system." Reth shouted. A massive shadow appeared on the outer screens, a colossal ship unlike anything they'd seen. It bore the insignia of the Council, but its design was twisted, unnatural. "That's impossible," Vereen whispered. "The Council was destroyed." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Not all of them. They built something new." The sphere's light flickered. "The darkness returns. The echo of the war we once fought." The massive dreadnought opened fire, sending beams of pure energy crashing against the ancient walls. "They're trying to destroy the city," Reth yelled. Jack ran to the controls. "We can't fight them with guns. We need the builders' help." The sphere glowed fiercely. "Then open your mind." A surge of energy erupted from the platform, connecting with Jack's thoughts. Suddenly, he could see everything, the entire network, every relay, every connection. Stars burned in his mind like living neurons. He reached out, not with his hands, but with his will. "You want to destroy what we built," he said, his voice echoing across the chamber. "Then face the ones who made it." The builders' network responded instantly. Beams of light erupted from across the galaxy, converging on the core. The dreadnought froze mid-attack as the energy wrapped around it like chains of light. The voice of the builders filled the void. The children of Terra stand united. The massive enemy ship imploded in silence, its energy absorbed into the network. Then, slowly, the light faded, leaving the city untouched. Jack fell to his knees, exhausted. The sphere dimmed and spoke softly. "You have done what we could not. You remembered." Vereen knelt beside him. "Jack, you saved everything." He looked up weakly. "No," he said, smiling faintly. "We all did." The sphere's voice grew distant. "The bridge is open. The builders have returned, not as gods, but as memory, as hope, as light. The galaxy is yours now." As the city began to rise, ascending into the storm of the galactic core, Jack watched in awe.